Hello everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this card for you today, and I'm going to be using distress watercolor pencils to color all of the images that I'm going to be stamping and die cutting. Now here are the different products, or most of the products I'm going to be using today, including the Lovely Layers Posted die set. This is a really cool die set that includes a bunch of different dies that you can use to layer up your different pieces. This die is a really great postage stamp frame die, and also there's a bunch of other coordinating dies here. So this die here is going to create just a really pretty little piece that you can use for borders or different elements on your cards. Then this frame here that I'm showing you inserts nicely inside of that postage stamp die, or you can use it alone as well. It's just a really great shaped frame. Then we've got this gorgeous little half circle scallop die, and then some other smaller dies that can be used for sentiment elements. This is a rectangular shape postage shape die. Then we've also got some other coordinating dies that go with that as well, including a little small postage stamp square, and then a straight postage stamp square, and then another smaller couple of sentiment rectangles. So some really, really great options with this Lovely Layers posted die set. So I really love this. This is a beautiful 3D embossing folder called Eyelet Lace. It's gorgeous. You can see that little scallop border at the bottom there. There is a coordinating die that goes along with that. That's the Eyelet Lace die. Now you can see here I've die cut out that posted frame, and I just love that. This little stamp sort of frame is really great for your card front. So I've die cut that out from some white cardstock here, and now I am going to die cut the scallop edge from this piece of paper. This paper is cut so that it fits inside of that first frame that I die cut that has the stamp edge. And so I've got this scallop piece now die cut. I'm going to place this inside of the lace 3D folder, just making sure that that scallop edge lines up at the bottom. I've run that through the die cutting machine now, and you can just see how gorgeous this piece is overlaid over top of that postage die cut card front. Now I'm also going to be using this gorgeous stamp set that is called the Love is a Rose set. This was designed by Kelly Taylor. It is just beautiful. I love it so much. And I wanted to use this image specifically from this set. This is, of course, is the birdcage with the florals. I am inking that up with a waterproof ink here, a black ink, and I'm just going ahead and stamping that out. Now that pigment ink is going to stay wet for a little bit, and that's going to allow me to put a little bit of clear embossing powder over top. And once I just get that rest of that clear embossing powder into the container, I'll just go ahead and take my heat tool and melt that clear embossing powder. And that's just going to leave me with this really nice raised shiny image here. Now I'm taking my watercolor pencils, my Ranger Distress watercolor pencils, and I'm going to color these. I've dipped this Rustic Wilderness pencil into some water, and then I'm taking a wet watercolor brush and just getting that pigment onto my little palette here. And then what I'll do is just go to my stamped and heat embossed image here, and I'll start to lay in some of that color. Now I did add a little bit of Twisted Citron on those leaves first before the Rustic Wilderness off camera, and I'm just going over the light green with the darker green, just adding in some shadows and shading and details. And I am using a wet on wet method here, so I have added clear water to my paper first before any pigment. Then I go in with my wet medium and drop in the color. And now this is fossilized amber, a really great yellow. And so I'm going to go in and add that as the base color over top of all of the different flowers. And I'll add the detail in over top of that with picked raspberry. So I'm just laying in that base color of that yellow, just like I laid in the base color of the Twisted Citron for the green. And then I'll go in with the picked raspberry. And actually I'm also using spiced marmalade. So a little bit of spiced marmalade first, and then I'll add the little bit of the pinks later. So just going to add that in. And that's just going to be so pretty. This is such a quick and easy way to watercolor. Really like the effect, and I just think it's just really nice and soft and pretty. So just going to finish up these last little florals here, and that'll finish up this portion of the watercoloring using the Distress watercolor pencils. The Distress watercolor pencils are super, super easy to work with. I highly recommend them if you have been thinking about getting into watercoloring but weren't really sure what medium to try. This is a really great one. Very easy, and there's a lot of different ways that you can use the pencils for different types of techniques. So this is just one way that you can use those pencils, and they are fantastic. So that is my florals all finished up there. I have let them dry, or I will set that aside so that that can dry. And now I have taken the Lovely Layers Sweetheart Rose die, and I've die cut out all of the different pieces from this die set to watercolor. So this is actually when you look at the layering guide for Lovely Layers Sweetheart Roses, this is the flower A. So I've die cut those from that die. And what I like to do is I like to die cut these one at a time. So I'll take this layer for layer A and die cut these pieces and put them all together beside the die so that I don't get the different die cut pieces mixed up. And I am using watercolor paper here, by the way. I've die cut these all from Distress watercolor paper. And I'm using the same colors that I used on the roses on the birdcage. So again, these are the Distress watercolor pencils. I'm using the same palette of colors. I go in here with, first of all, I wet the paper, then I went in with the yellow. Now I'm adding some of the orange and the pink to these die cut pieces. And this is so simple. It takes very little time. You do have to add or allow for a little bit of drying time, but if you really manage the amount of water that you're using, it actually doesn't take that much time for them to dry. So now you can see I have the leaves at the top there, and then I've got layer A, layer B, I think I actually have layer D and then layer C. I think those are mixed up alphabetically at the bottom there. So it goes the leaves and then A, B, D, and C. And then I've got, this is the base layer. So this is the largest die from that Sweetheart Roses die set. And I've got those all watercolored now and ready to assemble. So my assembly process here is going to start off with this little bud. And I am going to show you here on the screen which dies I'm using here so that you can refer to the layering guide. So this is the Bud C in the layering guide. And again, I've taken that die, I've die cut the pieces from watercolor paper. I've placed the die beside the die cut pieces so that I don't mix the die cut pieces up. And I've used the layering guide to basically lay out the pieces from largest to smallest, and then I just layer them together. And the lines between the lines of the different pieces that cut and the layering guide, these are really, really easy to layer up. So they're not hard to do at all. And there's the finished piece there. So super easy. Love how these worked out. And the watercolored layers are so pretty, but you can cut these out of colored cardstock. You can use your inks to ink blend them. You can use lots of different techniques. You could use your alcohol ink markers to color these. Lots of different techniques for coloring these up. You obviously don't have to use watercolors, but I did want to just show you how you can achieve these beautiful little pieces with the Distress watercolor pencils. And I'm just using liquid adhesive. I am using my Misty glue press for this. I do have to order some more honeybee glue. I'm virtually out of honeybee glue right now, so I need to get some, but I don't like to order it in the winter time just in case it freezes. I'm not sure if it can freeze or not. I need to ask Melissa and Lisa that question actually. But I live in a very cold climate, so I don't want to take the chance of ordering it and then having it freeze. So here we go. We are on to this next layer here. And you can just see how easy this process is. These are just layering up so easily. And with that layering guide especially, it's just, yeah, it makes it easy peasy lemon squeezy for sure. So this is the flower bee in the layering guide. And here you can just see I'm getting the adhesive on there, and then I'm finding just the sweet spot for how they layer, and then layering them together. And I just love these little sweetheart roses when they're finished. I think they are just the perfect little embellishment for the different embellishments for your different projects. So love these so much. They're perfect. And then you also have the option of die cutting out the vase. That's part of that die set as well, so that you could actually then put this gorgeous floral bouquet into a vase as well, which is really fun. So I'm just going to finish this one up with these last couple of little pieces here. And you can just see the attention to detail that Honeybee has used here, because there's so many dies or little die cut pieces that they all just layer together and create this really, really multi-layered, gorgeous little piece. So this is Flower B on the layering guide, all finished up. There's the die and there's that little floral as it's all finished. And then this is the final rose A. So this is what the A rose looks like when it is all completed as well. So really, really sweet. And then you can just go ahead and place these either as embellishments on your project, or you can actually layer them onto the base. And as it was intended, you layered the leaves over top of the different little areas according to the layering guide again, which I'm following. So I've got the layering guide up on my computer when I'm working on this, but you will, when you order the Sweetheart Roses, you will receive the layering guide with the die set. And so you can just have that sitting on your work surface as you're working away and use that guide to assemble the die cuts. So now you can just see how these sweet little pieces are going to fit onto the base there. So pretty. I love that. And you just get this most dimensional, gorgeous little piece for your project. And of course, I'm going to use mine as just an embellishment over top of my bird cage, as you saw in the photo at the beginning of the video. But honestly, you could use this in so many ways. So I'm taking the coordinating die from the Love is a Rose collection, and I'm die cutting out that bird cage. I'll just tape that down and run that through my die cutting machine. I've got that set aside. Now I have another one of the die cuts from the Lovely Layouts posted die set. This is that square postage stamp. I've die cut that from white cardstock, and now I'm going to use the postmarked stamp set. Make sure you check that out in the shop. It's just this really fun little stamp set that's got all of these different images, and I mean there's a ton of stamps on that set. I bet you I'm just looking at it, it's on my desk here. I'm going to say probably 15 to 20 stamps on that little set, and they're all perfect for creating little collages. So the little collage I'm creating here is on this little stamp, this little faux stamp, and I'm just stamping it with some of the images. Some of the stamping I'm doing here is second generation, so I'm going to stamp off here for this postage cancellation stamp here and just get a lighter stamped image then in that way. So second generation for this carte postale as well. And that's just going to vary the darkness of the stamped images there a little bit. Now I'm going in with a blending brush and adding some crushed olive oxide ink here. And I'll also add a little bit of Kitsch Flamingo. And those colors are going to match nicely with the colors that I've used for my watercoloring. And this is just going to be another little embellishment piece for my project. So really love the options with the Lovely Layouts dies. Really, really fantastic. And then of course here I've got this beautiful die cut card front here piece that has that postage stamp edging. I'm going to put that down on my A2 size top folding card front here, or card base, and I'll just get that adhered down nicely. So that's going to be my first layer. And then the next layer is going to be that gorgeous eyelet lace 3D embossed piece with that scallop edging at the bottom. I have added that with some foam adhesive onto that bottom layer. And so just going to get some really pretty layers here with this card. I'm going to add the birdcage next, and as you can see here, I've got some foam adhesive on the back, added just a little bit of liquid adhesive on top of the foam so that I can wiggle this around into place before it really grabs And I'm just kind of trying to center that a little bit, but I do kind of want to keep it over to the right a little bit to leave room for my florals. Now I did use this ivy piece, this die cut ivy piece from Lovely Layers Greenery to add a little bit of extra layering behind my Sweetheart Roses. And I've added those over top of the bird cage here that you can see, just to create this really pretty piece. And I have added that little postage stamp die cut to the top left. Now I am going to just splatter with a little bit of white splatters here with white paint, just to add that little bit of extra texture and interest to the project. And once that's dried, I'm going to go ahead and use this sentiment, which is from the Love is a Rose set. Again, this sentiment says, have a beautiful birthday. I always need birthday cards. And I've die cut out the sentiment backing here from the coordinating die set several times. I'll just glue those together, and in that way I can create some dimension for my sentiment. I have just stamped that in just black ink, and now I'll layer all of those layers together. I will put a little bit of foam adhesive right in the center of that sentiment, because I want that to make sure that that's dimensional in the center so that it's popped up nicely over top of those florals. And there's just that perfect little place in the center for my sentiment. Friends, I really enjoyed creating this. I had fun with this process. I hope you were inspired and inspired to use your products in a few different ways. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have an amazing day, and I will see you again very soon right here on the Honeybee Stamps channel. Bye-bye.